Good morning. Good Friday morning to you. Not that it's Good Friday, but that it's Friday, and I'm wishing you a good morning. From the Rocky Mountains, where we woke up this morning and everything was snow crusted. It's quite beautiful and magical. It's that time of year. Spring, spring, spring. We keep getting some snow around here, and there's my handsome fiance over the mountains. Speaking of snow, Good morning. Good Friday morning to you. Not that it's Good Friday, but that it's Friday, and I'm wishing you a good morning. From the Rocky Mountains, where we woke up this morning and everything was snow crusted. It's quite beautiful and magical. It's that time of year. Spring, spring, spring. We keep getting some snow around here, and there's my handsome fiance over the mountains. Speaking of snow, he has way more snow than we have here. We're at 9,200 feet. He's at 10,500-ish, right, honey? So, yes. Hi, Allison. So nice to see you. Man, wondering where in the world you are. You should put that in the comments. So, welcome to #BeHomeTogether sessions. Hi, Mom. We're just going to take a deep breath together. We're going to take a moment together to be at home, in ourselves, right where we are, facing what we're facing, and just take this moment as a breath, a deep drawn breath of love. This will go about 10 minutes, and I have a poem today from Maya Angelou, the magnificent Maya Angelou, who I have just loved as a writer and as a poet and as a woman in general. She was courageous and fearless, and maybe was afraid at times, but still fearless in how she put herself out there. So we've got a poem called Continue by her. But first we're going to take a moment just to drop in. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath and blow it out. Let yourself wiggle and loosen and come into yourself. We are going to go through a few things that we remember each morning together. Hi, Becky. Oh my goodness, another Australian on the call. How fun. And Annie out on the East Coast. Beautiful to see you. I see you, Eldao. So as we take these deep breaths, if you are sitting in a chair, I invite you to relax even just a little bit more. Let that chair or the bed, if you're sitting in it, no judgment, let it hold you. Let that surface hold you. Feel yourself breathing out any sense of efforting or tension, any need to hold yourself up in the world. Hi, beautiful Kristen. Take a nice deep breath and just see if you can sink a little bit deeper into wherever you're sitting. If you are standing like me, I like to focus on my feet and having them feel held by the ground. So actually feeling the soles of my feet. I take my shoes off for these sessions just so I can feel the ground under my feet. So I'm wiggling my toes and just letting myself be held. Letting go of any tension, any fear of the future, of what comes next, even after this 10 minutes, of just taking a moment to be here, be home. So now as you continue breathing, I'm going to walk us through the 3 things that we do each day together. I invite you to close your eyes. And you can keep your hands over your heart if you want to, if that helps you be more present with yourself, or you can relax your arms down by your side and just sink more deeply into that being held. I belong here. I belong here in this moment. I belong here in myself. I belong here in whatever situation I am in this moment. I belong here in my family. I belong here in my community and in this time. This time was made for me, but I was also made for this time. I am ready. I'm ready for this time. I am ready for all that is here for me to turn into lessons, for my growth in grace, for my triumph over obstacles, for my strength training through adversity and learning resilience. I am ready. I am not alone. I'm not alone because I'm here with myself. I will not abandon myself. I am not alone because closer than my very breath is divine love itself. That still small voice, that source of my being that is guarding and guiding me and telling me what the next right step is. If I just listen and become still, I realize I am not alone. I belong here. I am ready. I am not alone. Take a nice deep breath, and whatever is true in that for you, just let it sink in and take root. Hi, Marela and Ollie. Thank you for joining. So today I took a little walk in our snow-frosted ground of being up in the mountains in the springtime. And I started thinking about the idea of joy. For Luminous Life, for my company, we talk about Fridays being Friday, standing for F is for fabulosity, R is for restoration, I is for inspiration, and the yay is about celebration. Now, during this time, I know it can be hard to find something to celebrate. And if you have something or you have lots of somethings to celebrate, it can feel like you're not allowed to, because there's a lot of seeming suffering in the world right now and things that are very real to people. I met somebody yesterday via a Zoom call who's in Liberia, who literally is living on less than a bowl of rice a day. And I want to share with you how incredibly joyful he was in our interaction. He didn't draw his attention to that. Somebody in our group asked the question, what are you getting to eat every day? And that's when he told us. And so I want to talk about the idea of joy, fierce joy. Joy is not something that comes from circumstances. And this is what I've learned in my life. During the hardest time in my life, I had a difficult time talking to people who just say, hey, how's it going? Because you say fine or whatever. And that felt so not authentic. And I was suffering a lot with grief and really listening every day through this sense of grief of losing my son and my marriage and my home in the mountains, and suddenly being with a bunch of 20-somethings going back to college in my maternity overalls. That's how fast that happened. So every day was a challenge for me. And I wanted to have a more real way to answer people's question. We say we're fine. We say, great, thanks. And often it's just an interaction that we have with each other. It's not something that's meant to have a ton of meaning. But we have, for me in that moment, I started to realize the power of words. And I wanted to, since people asked me so constantly how I was doing, I wanted to have something that I heard myself say over and over and over again. And I decided to use that as a way to remind myself of what I was learning. And so I went for a long walk and I got really quiet and I thought, what is a way to respond? And when I was going through everything with my marriage and then my son passing, there was this tiny piece of joy that I could feel like inside of myself. And it was there all the time, like this understanding that all was going to be well, that it was going to work out, that I would move through my grief and I would have a life that I really wanted to have. And that joy was already there like a seed inside myself, and it felt whole. It felt like it was just there as a part of my being, not something I had to come up with. And so the words intact joy came to me. And I started freaking people out a little bit. They'd say, how are you doing? And I'd say, my joy is intact. Because I could feel that. It was real, it was authentic, it was true. And it would stop people for a minute because, of course, they were expecting, oh, I'm fine, great, how are you? And they'd say, man, wow, that's really cool. Or tell me more about that, which was a neat thing to be asked. So it turned those into possibilities for conversation. But really, I heard myself say multiple times a day, my joy is intact, my joy is intact, my joy is intact. And I take that into the work that I do. No matter how dark it is in the situation we're standing in, I know that intact joy is there and it's accessible and it's available if we're still and we drop in. And any of you, and I know the people on that I can see your names right now, many of you have faced serious darkness. And I know that your joy is something I appreciate so much in you because it's not circumstantial. It's not based on what's making me happy and if people are doing what I want them to do right now. And I love that. I love that joy can be intact. So the idea that we can't express our joy. I was on another call, lots of Zoom calls lately, where somebody said, I feel really bad, but you guys are having a hard time, but I'm getting to run again. And one of the people on the call who had just said she was having a hard time said, your joy does not take away from me. I'm so happy you're able to do that. And this is a concept that I've heard about from my Buddhist friends called sympathetic joy. And it is a basic principle of Buddhism that you practice sympathetic joy. That this is not a competition for who gets to have a better life and then you have to feel guilty, or who has it harder and then we have to feel guilty. But that joy is a blessing to everybody when we're able to share it. And so I invite you, if you do have something to celebrate today, if you do have a sense of joy, to find the safe places and ways to express that without feeling like it diminishes the world in any way. Right now, your joy, your fierce joy is needed. And it doesn't mean, be unaware or unempathetic towards people, but feel that joy, inhabit it all the way. So that's my little message today, personally, that came from my walk. And here is your poem from Maya Angelou. Continue, a poem. My wish for you is that you continue. Continue to be who and how you are, to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness. Continue to allow humor to lighten the burden of your tender heart. Continue in a society dark with cruelty to let the people hear the grandeur of God in your peals of laughter. Continue to let your eloquence elevate the people to heights they had only imagined. Continue to remind the people that each is as good as the other, and that no one is beneath nor above you. Continue to remember your own young years and look with favor upon the lost and the least and the lonely. Continue to put the mantle of your protection around the bodies of the young and defenseless. Continue to take the hand of the despised and deceased and walk proudly with them in the high street. Some might see you and be encouraged to do likewise. Continue to plant a public kiss of concern on the cheek of the sick and the aged and infirm, and count that as natural action to be expected. Continue to ignore no vision which comes to enlarge your range and increase your spirit. Continue to dare to love deeply and risk everything for the good thing. Continue to float happily in the sea of infinite substance, which set aside riches for you before you had a name. Continue, and by doing so, you and your work will be able to continue eternally. Now we've gone over the 10 minutes, so I'm not going to reread that one. You can just hit rewind if you want to watch it, if you're watching the video. But I wish you all a weekend where you can feel in contact with that intact sense of joy, regardless of what is happening for you, that we can be home in ourselves together. Much love to you all.